Welcome. I'm a lady of Westeros, and today we will be exploring a mind-bending theory where Bran Stark, in his journey throughout time, not only fails to prevent the long night from coming again, but inevitably causes it. Let's start with a pivotal moment in George R. R. Martin's story, A Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, Jon 2. Jon climbed the steps slowly, trying not to think that this might be the last time ever. Ghost padded silently beside him. Outside, snow swirled through the castle gates, and the yard was all noise and chaos. But inside the thick stone walls, it was still warm and quiet. Too quiet for Jon's liking. He reached the landing and stood for a long moment, afraid. Ghost nuzzled at his hand. He took courage from that. He straightened and entered the room. Lady Stark was there, beside the bed. She had been there day and night for close to a fortnight. Not for a moment had she left Bran's side. She had her meals brought to her there, and a chamber pot as well, and a small hard bed to sleep on, though it was said that she scarcely slept at all. She fed him herself, the honey and water and herb mixture that sustained life. Not once did she leave the room. So Jon had stayed away. But now there was no more time. He stood in the door for a moment, afraid to speak, afraid to come closer. The window was open. Below, a wolf howled. Ghost heard and lifted his head. Lady Stark looked over. For a moment, she didn't seem to recognize him. Finally, she blinked. "What are you doing here?" she asked in a voice strangely flat and emotionless. "I came to see Bran," Jon said, "to say goodbye." This is a key moment for Jon if this theory is correct that we're going to go into tonight. Um, this would be the very last moment that Jon Snow gets to see his beloved little brother Bran. Out of all of the people in Winterfell, other than maybe Arya and Ned, Bran is his closest family. Um, and to see him broken and to have Catelyn in this same little chapter tell Jon that she wished it was him that fell, that she doesn't want him here, that she hates Jon, and the disdain in her voice builds his character and makes him the man that he is. I think that overall his wanting to prove Catelyn wrong is a deciding uh, force, a driving force for Jon Snow and everything that he does. But we're not here to quite talk about Jon Snow. We are here today to talk about Bran Stark and how I think that, or I don't personally agree with this theory. It's just a fun theory to dive into. But if this theory is correct, it will be very sad for Jon in the end, which, like Ramsay Bolton says in the show, if you think this is going to have a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. I think he is very right on that about for most, probably all of the characters. But we'll get into that in just a little bit, maybe in another video about other characters and stuff. But now let's dive into why Bran Stark causes the long night. Bran's abilities grow as he dives deeper into the Weirwood net with the help of Bloodraven. But what happens when Bloodraven's not around? We see in the show that, okay, spoilers, if you haven't watched the show, why are you here? Okay. But in the show, when Bran dives into the Weirwood net when he's not really supposed to without Bloodraven there, he ends up getting touched by the Night King, and it allows the Night King to come find him, and it all goes to heck, right? Real quick. And we get our hold the door. Okay, it's terrible. So for some reason, at some point, Bloodraven is not going to be with him. Either it's going to happen like in the show, or something else happened. Bloodraven, Bran leaves for some reason. Who knows? We'll find out eventually. Here's hoping. But for whatever reason, Bloodraven's not there to guide Bran. Not able to help him as he moves through the Weirwood net throughout space and time. He's no longer there to influence Bran, and Bran ends up influencing key figures throughout the course of his journeys throughout the past. Maybe he could have been one that helped inspire Rhaegar to quit being a sweet, bookish little prince and to pick up a sword and shield and battle. Maybe he was the one that, during his travels through the Weirwood net, traveling back in time, trying to fix whatever it was that caused the long night, or see what caused the long night and how to potentially stop the Night King, he bumps into these key figures. And where in the show and in the book he calls out to Ned and father, and Ned's like, what? And Bloodraven explains to him that no matter what we do, we're only whispers of the wind. It reminds me of the scene with Asha and Bran when Holdor comes running in all naked, and she's like, he got some giant's blood in him, or I'm the queen. That scene where Bran's praying for Robb to be okay, for his family to come back, and Asha comes across him and she's like, they're my gods too, and they're speaking to you. And he's like, I only hear the wind. And she's like, exactly. I think that Bran, my own theory will go into in a different video coming up real soon about Bran. I'm on a Bran kick. I'm sorry. But Bran is more powerful than Bloodraven. Bloodraven is the last Green Seer for a reason. He is the last Green Seer. Bran is more. And Bran being more than Bloodraven and any other Green Seer that has come behind him. Hello, Buckshot. My son just came in the room. But he's more powerful than any Green Seer that has come before him. He is able to do more than what Bloodraven does, where Bloodraven's like, we can't do it. Bran figures out a way to be more than just the wind. There's the one chapter in the books where Jon is having his own wolf dream, and he sees his brother, and he's like, when did my brother get a third eye? And Bran is kind of like speaking to him. Bran gets better the more he goes through. The whole thing of time and space and moving through time and space is a total mind warped, okay? It's crazy, but it's not linear. It's not quite the whole web factor or the roots. I think it's more of a scroll that is laid out, and the grand big God of it all sees this, and that's kind of how time is, and our human brains can't comprehend it. So Bran's been moving throughout time, speaking to people as he gets better with his gift, but it's happening during different times to it gets crazy, okay? Just bear with me. It's time travel. It's nuts, okay? But with this, Bran is able to interact with these beings. He is more powerful than Bloodraven, and eventually learns how to master this power of influencing key figures throughout the history of Westeros and perhaps even the known world. And maybe Jaime Lannister in his Weirwood dreams, Daemon Targaryen in the TV show, okay, in his Weirwood dreams. I think it's all Bran. A lot of it is really Bran that is sending these visions and truly influencing people. No Green Seer before, not Bloodraven, not any of them. It's Bran. Not even the three-eyed raven entity that I believe is just some total parasite that's trying to keep itself alive. That's a totally different video. It's a totally different video. I just spilled coffee on myself.
You spilled coffee?
I spilled coffee on myself.
Oh.
Hold on, I'm still recording. Hold on.
Oh.
I've lost my train of thought a little bit. Real life, right?
Yeah.
But with that, Bran is able to influence many different figures, and I think that hopefully will come more into play in the books when we eventually get them. And I'll explain it more in my upcoming Bran video. But he's influencing all these key figures leading up to events to the present day, trying to fix the long night, learn what again happened to start it, how to defeat the night walkers or the night walkers. Night walkers, right? The White Walkers. But I think much like number 5 from the Umbrella Academy, Bran, he is powerful, or at least sticking with this theory, not my theory that we're going to go into soon, but with this theory of him being a time traveling man that caused the long night and will bring about the new long night. It's more like a 5 thing. He would end up using too much of his power and overestimating himself and end up getting stuck in time. And as he does this, he will push farther and farther into the past, again, losing himself and losing his power and being stuck there. And I think that with this theory, if he does that, he's going to go back so far, affecting all of these, trying to figure out what's going on, and end up getting stuck in the past and being kind of stuck there as like a spiritual entity floating around, unable to actually go because he wouldn't have a physical body, just his mental thing. And so we see how he is with Hodor. He will just up and warg into another being that's there and be like one more step in the Bran Stark thing to becoming a bad guy because he eats human flesh and the body of Summer. He he does the warging into Hodor in who is it? Something Six Skins. Is like you can't do that. John gets told you can't do. There are rules. Bran gets told you can't do that. There are rules to everything in the universe, and Bran just tap dances all over them rules. And I think that at that point, without the power to get back to his time, he will end up working into one of the first men that will be fighting the children of the forest during that war, and that will lead to one of the key things that causes the long night and makes it a never ending time loop. This right here is why I have such a hard time recording. They just have to come join me and be so noisy. What am I to do? So the Bran Stark that we know has warged himself throughout time, bumping into who knows who and doing who knows what and influencing everything. Who knows, right? We could get creative, I'm sure, but he's gone throughout time and has gotten himself stuck during the Age of Heroes, um, when they are warring with the Children of the Forest. The First Men are warring with the Children of the Forest, and he is stuck in this astral brand form, unable to like actually live a life. And he's a little boy, and so his judgment may not be, like what you're about to do is not really on the up and up. And we've also seen that Bran has done some questionable things throughout the books, things that have been explained to be taboo amongst skin changers and things like that. No eating human flesh, and Bran has done some stuff. So he ends up not wanting to be stuck in this astral Bran form, so he wargs into a nearby person, perhaps a child, perhaps a Stark child that's named Bran, and grows up at that point throughout the Age of Heroes, or not the Age of Heroes, I'm sorry, during the time of the First Men and the battle with the Children of the Forest, and has a chance to live a life to an extent, but things go even more wrong for Bran. He captured by the Children of the Forest, and held captive, and the children are desperate because we know that they were struggling during this time fighting with the first men. These men coming in that are bigger than them, taking over their land, cutting down heart trees, awfulness, mass genocide on the children of the against the children of the forest. And so, out of their desperateness, they create the Night King. We saw it on the show, the dragon glass being slowly plunged into the guy's chest. Perhaps in that moment, that was a man possessed by Bran Stark. We know that, or at least I think, Three-Eyed Raven is totally, again, parasitic entity that just works his way through time, taking over whatever body, okay, sucking the prey in like a spider, and then boom, and possesses them to keep going. There's a whole video. There's a whole nother video. But Bran has learned from the Three-Eyed Raven, and again, Bran has done questionable things already, and he's a little boy mentally in the beginning, and so they capture him, turn him into the Night King, and with that, Bran still possesses the abilities to work, to use green sight, to tap into the Weirwood net, all of these different things. Maybe he was the very first green seer, the very first, and he is now the Night King, this entity of great immense power on its own to be able to take on the first men and in turn the children, which I think is really what brings about the pack, because we're fighting these creatures we made. Children are like, we're so sorry. Y'all made us mad, so we made these things and now they've gone bad. Can y'all help? And they signed the pact kind of thing. But this entity, I think, is Bran, and with his abilities, it gives the White Walkers the ability to because if he's like creating children with like the original Knight's Queen kind of, because like back in the day, I think there must have been female whites for the race to continue, and then that's why Craster is giving his children, because they can no longer produce because there aren't like women anymore. And anyway, Bran's making babies. Okay, this new Night Walker King Bran is making babies with like some White Walker ladies, and in turn is passing on his abilities to Green Sea and all of that throughout that. And that is also why when he was like Stark Man in the past, passed his ability to Green Sea amongst others within the Stark family tree, perhaps. But now he's passing it on amongst the White Walker family tree, and gives them so much more ability. And in turn, again, he started out trying to learn how to stop the White Walkers, trying to learn what originally started the Long Night and what they could do to keep it from happening again. And as he's gone back in time, he ends up being the thing that corrupts the whole thing. Maybe him going back and tapping into the Weirwood net, maybe for the very first time, is what corrupts the Weirwood net. Again, I mentioned in another video about how there are the two different trees, the golden leafed one with the black bark and like ET and all that. And then you have I say our Weirwood trees, but the Weirwood trees in Westeros with the white bark and the red leaves, that they originally started out much like Duncan eggs, or not Duncan eggs, but Dunk's shield, with the big oak tree with the green leaves and an oak tree, a big old tree, but something corrupted it. Perhaps Bran going back in time to stop the Night King taps into the Weirwood trees for the first time and corrupts the whole system. And then he becomes the White Walker King, and it's like everything gets shuffled then. Then there is no balance amongst anything anymore within this world. And then you end up getting this chaos going where winters last for generations, and then you have springs that last for generations or not very long at all. And it got messed up. And then you have the whites and the White Walkers able to possess dead bodies of animals and people like Bran being able to possess animals and people. And so with that, he is now the three-eyed ravens. He's no longer the three-eyed raven's go-to boy, because the three-eyed raven, in his attempt to stop the long night, ends up helping Bran start the long night, because he chose Bran to come up here because he was the closest green seer that he could get to that was the most powerful. Because there was like Jojen Reed. He could have like used Jojen, but Bran was more powerful, so he chose him. And in turn, choosing Bran starts the long night. Again, it's time travel. It's a mind crazy thing. Time warp, okay? So the final battle is here. We've gone through the whole span of time from Bran and him in the books that we see and everything that happens leading up to Bran going back in time and doing his thing throughout his travels, okay, affecting who knows who, and triggering who knows what events, all trying to lead things up to where we are now and figure out how to stop the Night King, and ends up getting trapped and ends up becoming the Night King himself, the thing he's supposed to be fighting against. And then he lives his life, and thousands of years go by until we get to this very moment where Jon Snow is standing as Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised, the warrior destined to take down the darkness. And his enemy is more than just the darkness. It's more than just an icy form of a being he doesn't have any connection with. Even if he doesn't like know that this is Bran at this point, mentally Bran that's been corrupted by being changed into the Night King all those years ago. Um, even if he doesn't know, it's still, as a reader, as we're sitting there with our books open and finally getting to it, and we find out, oh my goodness, that's Bran. And Jon has to kill his baby brother. Someone that to us we would be so heartbroken, I think, because it's like, that's Bran. He faced Catelyn Stark in the very opening, the little I read. The woman that made his life miserable, the woman that tormented him and made sure that he knew he was less than all of his siblings, that he would never amount to anything, that he was just a bastard. If anyone has ever had someone make them feel like that, especially from a young age, it does something to your heart, to your soul, to you mentally. It affects you. And especially seeing how Catelyn loved her children, her children. She, like Cersei in this, is her only redeeming quality is the fact that she loves her children with such a ferocity that she would do anything to protect them. That's like the only thing good about her to me. Um, but for Jon to see that, to see the way she treats those children and then the way she treated him is an even bigger blow, you know? And so to have that go down, Jon facing her to say goodbye, knowing that this could be the very last time that he saw his brother, the boy that he loved, the innocent, sweet little Bran that liked to climb and get in trouble. Okay, it would be heartbreaking for us as readers to read this, knowing that the guy that Jon is about to kill with his flaming red sword to fulfill the prophecy to end the long night is his brother, Bran. And Jon has to put him down. And how horrible would that be? It would be one of those moments that I think George R. Martin could 100% pull on us to just rip our hearts out. Because again, like Ramsay says in the show, if you think this is going to have a happy ending, you've clearly not been paying attention. Bran Stark's story may not be one of salvation, but one of tragedy. The boy who wanted to save the world ends up becoming the world's greatest threat. But what do you think? Can Jon Snow break this cycle, or is the fate of Westeros sealed? I myself do not lean toward the theory that Bran Stark is the Night King, but it is a fun theory to indulge in, to ponder over, to contemplate the what ifs. But let me know in the comments below what you think. What is the path that Bran will take? What is his destiny? How would this story end? And how will that ending affect all of the characters that we know and love? Let me know. And until next time, keep your candles lit and your fires burning. Thanks so much for watching. And if you've made it this far, go that extra mile and like, share, and subscribe. Bye.